For those of you that don't know, Medicham was one of my favorite Pokemon before it got absolutely nerfed to the ground in previous seasons. It's helped me win a lot of big tournaments in the past, and it's a lot of fun to play, at least in my opinion, but nowadays it's a much different Pokemon than before. Counter, its best fast move has been nerfed. Psychic as well, one of its best coverage moves, has been absolutely gutted. But recently with Dynamic Punch as well as Ice Punch being buffed, it's opened up an interesting Psycho Cut playstyle where you're a lot more charge move oriented. Let's get into the battles and see what Medicham can do. All right, let's get right on into it. First game of the day, we're going to see Medicham as our lead up against a Shadow Quagsire. Very neutral lead matchup, but we'll see what our opponent wants to do. We actually see an instant swap out here to a Tinkaton. We can go for a Dynamic Punch very quickly. Only 5 Psycho Cuts to reach a very powerful move. Let's see if they want to shield or if they'll just let us go. They do actually shield very early on with that Tinkaton. Probably a smart shield that would have done about half of their HP. And now Dusknoir can come in. They only threw a move after 6 Fairy Winds. I thought maybe a Heavy Slam, but no, it's going to be a Bulldoze. No debuff against us, which is fantastic to see here. And now Dynamic Punch going to be thrown, doing a massive amount of damage into this Tinkaton. In comes a move that's able to do about half of their remaining HP here. And now I believe a Play Rough will come through. Since they've already shielded, I feel like matching shields is not a bad play, especially because energy on Dusknoir is so important. I know at this point, Ghost and Fighting type coverage is completely unresisted in Pokemon Go PvP, meaning that if I have energy on my Dusknoir, no matter what they come in with, even like a Furret, which is like the worst spot to be in, I can do some neutral damage or super effective damage against basically anything. In comes that Shadow Quagsire once again, and while we don't have any type effective moves for this Pokemon, we have a lot of neutral damage, as well as a lot of charge move spam, saying we are running Hex as our fast move. In comes an Aqua Tail against us. This will likely knock us out, but because Dusknoir has done his job, I think we're still in a decent spot in this match. Medicham can come back in here. I'm able to tank a move, or, okay, we actually see their final Pokemon. It's not what I want to see here. Darkspawn is going to be able to be a bit of a core breaker into our Medicham, as well as our Furret, saying we have Sucker Punch as our fast move, which is resisted into the Fairy-type Pokemon, but after that Ice Punch, potentially a Swift could be enough to knock them out, or at least put them into fast move farm down range. In comes a Psychic Fang, so we can call that move Darkspawn. While it does have Charm, it doesn't have a lot of very efficient charge moves here. It's going to have Psychic Fangs, which can make it so now the Charms will do just a little bit more damage, but I think we're still in a decent spot where we can go for another charge move here, survive, and maybe either draw the shield or get a knockout against this Darkspawn. In comes the Swift. Our opponent is going to let the move through. In comes the Quagsire, and now I have a big decision to make. It seems like they're going for a full farm down here, which means I think I have to go for a full fast move farm down myself. I just have to hope Medicham has enough bulk right now to survive the Mud Shots as well as the Aqua Tail. In comes the Aqua Tail here. Second Aqua Tail going to be reached. It's going to do a massive amount of damage, but I have the rank 1 Medicham. We're able to just barely hang on. I'm almost certain from this move, it's going to be a fast move beatdown race. Simul KO, I guess, on that first game of the day. Very close match there, GG to our opponent. Next game, Tinkaton this time on the lead. We saw that this is a bit of a tricky Pokemon for a team from that last game, but I do have access to Dynamic Punch, which is a very efficient move. In the last game, they did end up shielding instantly, but that was on the safe swap. Do they want to shield instantly on the lead? Let's see. We do see an instant no shield actually by them, and now we can try to come in with our Dusknoir no shield, whatever they're going to throw. It could be a Play Rough. Once again, they go for the Bulldoze. This time it actually could have been a Play Rough, which is kind of an interesting play, but they do get that defense drop, which is a little bit unfortunate. In comes a Dunsparce, and while they are going to be able to resist my Hex fast move pressure, this is why Dusknoir is just so threatening here. Dynamic Punch is super effective against the normal types, which generally are going to be the best counter to this Ghost type Pokemon. So while we are not in a great spot, and even though our defense is dropped, we should be able to reach 2 Dynamic Punches here, either knocking this Pokemon out or getting a shield advantage. Dynamic Punch being thrown, it does get a shield here from the Dunsparce, and now I have a bit of a tricky spot to be in. I don't really have any fast move pressure on our Medicham, despite being a fighting type Pokemon, and I think our Furret is our best option here. Just go for a full farm down. We did get a bit of damage into that Tinkaton earlier, so if we have enough energy on our Furret, potentially we can still have a good chance at winning this game. In comes another Drill Run. I could shield this up, but I feel like at this point, Medicham could still be our win condition in this game. I'm going to no shield, but unfortunately, because they do reach another move, I have to throw on CMP. Trailblaze will boost our attack stat up, but I don't even know if it's going to matter at this point. Tinkaton is going to be able to survive the move and put in quite a bit of work into us. In comes the Swift here. Our opponent will easily survive. They resist all of my moves on Furret. If I had Dig, I guess that could be super effective, but no Dig is on our Furret, which means they can no shield, and now come in with that Tinkaton once again, throwing energy against us. Bulldoze, of course, they go for the bait, and of course, they get the debuff, and another Darkspawn. Who is using these dogs? I don't even understand this right now. Yes, but GG to our opponent. Next game, a very interesting lead matchup. Honestly, a bit of a throwback to some seasons past where Gligar and Medicham were some of the best Pokemon, but right now I'd have to say they're both kind of underwhelming or at least underutilized because both these Pokemon have been nerfed since their prime. With that said, since I am now on Psycho Cut as well as I have the buffed Ice Punch, this matchup is actually pretty good for Medicham. They also go for Dig. Okay, that makes me think they're running Night Slash as their other charge move here, which if that is the case, our Medicham is in a very good spot. Ice Punch does not quite one-shot here, but we can go for a full farm down. I'm thinking there's no way this is Aerial Ace. They would have thrown that earlier. No Shield and Night Slash and farm them all the way down. Medicham able to take out the Flying type Pokemon. Love to see that here. Ice Punch with that new buff in the couple seasons ago. Actually, it might have been last season, right? But either way, it is a very strong move nowadays. Very happy to see that. In comes a Fortress to try to farm us down here. I think Medicham is just bulky enough, though, to survive these Volt Switches and get to a second Dynamic Punch, which might not draw the shield, but if they do end up no-shielding, this Fortress is going to be extremely low. Dynamic Punch being thrown, it does end up landing against that Fortress. They will throw a Charge Move, and while Earthquake could do a lot of damage, I feel like this is a very tempting bait from our opponent. A Rock Tomb could debuff our attack stat, and since now we still have a shield as well as a lot of energy and a Furret in the backline, we should be in a very good spot. Dude, what is this? That's a Poliwhirl in the backline. I don't know if I've ever fought a Poliwhirl before. I think it has like, what, Mud Shot, Mud Bomb, maybe? And Scald, I think, is its other move. So honestly, not the worst moveset in the world, but it's just kind of a bizarre Pokemon to see. They let that next move go. They know at this point my attack is dropped, but because they are so low now, I think I can just Sucker Punch them all the way down. I'm just now realizing how many punches I have on this team. Dynamic Punch, Ice Punch, Sucker Punch, and Dusknoir has Dynamic Punch as well, and Shadow Punch. This is a very violent team here. Kind of crazy. I didn't even realize that until now. But yeah, we can Sucker Punch down this Fortress, go for the Sucker Punch down against his Poliwhirl, and take the win against them in that game. Next matchup is a Furret into our Medicham, and while this matchup you might think on paper is very good for us, it's not as consistent as you might expect. They say swap a Claydol here. I'm going to actually build up a ton of energy and come in with our Dusknoir. This is mainly because I know Dusknoir is a very solid answer to this Pokemon, and if I do end up coming out of this matchup with any sort of energy, I should potentially reach a Dynamic Punch against that Furret, but I am a bit worried at this point, because they are going to have a lot of energy here. I've been debuffed with that Rock Tomb, which is never good to see, because that Rock Tomb is going to make it so these two Shadow Punches are not enough damage to knock them out. In comes this next Shadow Punch here. It's able to put them low, but not quite low enough to knock them out here, which is a little bit awkward, but Rock Tomb is going to knock out our Dusknoir as long as our opponent taps all the bubbles, that is. They actually go for a full undercharge, and they come back in with their Furret, which is a very interesting play, saying I have so much energy on our Medicham even still. Dynamic Punch lands, does about 75% of their HP on this normal type Pokemon, which is fantastic to see, but our opponent is going to throw a Charge Move, and this is where Medicham does kind of suffer. It's like Registeel back in the day. It has a lot of Charge Move pressure, but very little Fasting pressure, but unlike Registeel, it's also pretty spammy here, which is a very good thing, saying I can now go for an Ice Punch and either knock out the Furret here, or, well, I was going to say get a shield, but no, they just let that go instantly, and in comes the Claydol once again. Ice Punch is super effective against them. I do have to throw energy because my Psycho Cuts do almost no damage to this Psychic-type Pokemon, and their final Pokemon is going to be shown as an Emolga. This is a Flying-type Pokemon, meaning Ice Punch, once again, is going to be super effective. We are going to see an instant shield from our opponent, and now Furret should be able to close out this game. GG to our opponent. Next game, Medicham up against a Claydol. We just saw this a second ago. I actually do have two better answers, though, to this in the backline. Our opponent kind of thinking the same thing. What is up with all these dogs? Who let the dogs out? This Pokemon is so frustrating to deal with here, but we'll see what we can do. In comes a Shadow Punch into the Darkspawn. It's going to do about half of their HP, and likely going to be a Psychic Fang coming through against us right now. I feel like at this point, shielding this move up, while it is not the most efficient shield in the game, it seems like this is likely a double charm team, so I want to get shields down if I can. With that Psychic Fang's debuff, though, I might not survive this next charm. While I do have back-to-back Shadow Punches here, if they do shield this move up, I will get knocked out. I will waste all that energy, and now we're in a bit of a precarious spot. How do I finish off this Darkspawn? I'm not quite sure. I'm going to bring in our Furret, knowing that I can at least try to Sucker Punch this down. Maybe that's an ambitious play, but we'll see what we can do. Psychic Fangs comes through. It does debuff my defense stat here, and now Sucker Punches, while they are resisted, are adding up into this Pokemon. We're able to farm all the way down. We have a lot of energy, and in comes that Claydol once again. What is this? There's a Granbull in the back. I guess that's to be expected here. Double Charm in the Remix Cup. I mean, it was bound to happen at some point. It seems like everyone's just using the worst stuff possible here today. But now Ice Punch number 2 can be in throw. We actually got a shield here with that first charge move, which is maybe actually a win condition. Because by getting a shield there, I can now ramp up my attack stat with this next Trailblaze. And potentially, if I can land another Trailblaze and get enough Sucker Punch damage into this Claydol, maybe there's a chance for us to win this game. I don't know how much damage this is going to do. It's a non-stab Trailblaze, as well as non-stab Sucker Punches, but Claydol, it's pretty low now. It's going to be another tie, another Simul KO here, just barely. I mean, I'll take it. You know, against Double Charm, we'll take it with no Charm answer. All right, next game, a Greninja in the lead. A bit of an awkward lead matchup, actually, right? It's a fighting type into a dark type, but it's also basically a psychic type fast move pressure Pokemon into a dark type as well, which is pretty awkward when they can outpace us to these Hydro Cannons. And while Dynamic Punch could one-shot them, if they shield, I do no damage if they can swap out or maybe make a catch on a move, which makes this matchup very precarious. To make things worse, our backline's also kind of weak to this Pokemon, so I do want to make sure if I can to neutralize that threat earlier on in this game if possible. They come in with the Typhlosion here, and now I just have to hope that I can survive a Blast Burn, go for a Swift, and get a shield from them if I can. In comes the Swift. Do they shield up this move? It would be a little bit scary if they do, because they can farm us all the way down. They actually no shield, which might honestly be a little bit scarier, knowing that now they're going to get another shield here from my Dusknoir, which could be very bad for us. With that said, I think I can Hex down as long as they don't swap out, and the energy on our Dusknoir here could be very helpful, because I am going to have Dynamic Punch for that Greninja potentially, and I have energy as well on my Medicham. Our opponent is thinking about who to come in with right now. In comes that Greninja, and I go for the Dynamic Punch, but unfortunately on a CMP. Not exactly what I wanted to do here, but it is going to be able to survive this move. Go for the Dynamic Punch and try to knock them out if possible. Dynamic comes through. Our opponent is going to let that go. Okay, hold on. There might be a chance for us. It's a Drifblim in the backline. One of the ghosts that I actually have play into, I have Ice Punch, which is super effective against them. If I can land two, or honestly, better yet, if I can get a shield from them right now, I might be able to win this game. I have a Shadow Punch loaded on my Dusknoir, so they kind of have to no-shield this move, which they do end up doing, but we just get a full Psycho Cut down. They should have thrown the move, but since they didn't, we're able to knock them out. It could have been a silent KO once again. That could have been a third tie today. Fortunately, though, we were able to win that one. Next matchup is a Pidgeot in the lead. Not exactly the best lead matchup to see here, but since once again we're on Psycho Cut and Ice Punch, we can spam out super effective charge attacks into this Pokemon, and unless they're going to Brave Bird us, there's no way they're going to one-shot us with a move. They also went for an instant shield here. I'm almost certain this is going to be a Feather Dance coming through. That's just what Pidgeot seem to do best right now. We're able to survive the move, go for a Dynamic Punch. It does do just a little bit more raw damage, even though Ice Punch would be super effective because of how efficient Dynamic Punch is. We're able to do about half their HP there, and now probably come in with our Furret, try to go for a farm down, and use this energy in the backline to our advantage. Once Pidgeot goes away in this game, I'm hoping our Dusknoir has a bit more play. Dusknoir does not want to see normal type Pokemon generally, especially normal type Pokemon that are not weak to the fighting type charge pressure that I have. Would be kind of rough. We actually get that full perfect farm down here. We have so much energy on our Furret. In comes a Primeape, which is a little bit awkward for us, but they end up staying in when we safe swap our Dusknoir. I would expect a Rage Fist instantly being thrown by them right now, but a little bit of bad timing means we got a full Hex sneak there, giving us a ton of free energy. In comes the Dynamic Punch into the Primeape. It's able to draw the shield, and now our opponent is trying their best here to reach another charge attack, but I am able to shield this up and outpace them before they can get to yet another Rage Fist here in this game. Rage Fist is going to end up getting our final shield, and now they make a catch on a Claydol. Nasty catch from our opponent, but the thing is, I think we're still in a pretty good spot. We have so much energy left over on our Furret, and as long as we come out of this matchup here with a Swift of energy for that Primeape, we can just win this game, because there is no way they're going to be able to either knock us out with a Rage Fist, which they're not even at yet, or be able to farm us down before a Swift could knock them out. In comes the Swift now to guarantee the knockout into the Claydol, and now we're able to Swift once again into the Primeape. They are not quite yet at a move. They were at 3 Karate Chops. They needed 4 for a Rage Fist, 5 for an Ice Punch or a Close Combat. Swift is enough, though, to knock out the Primeape and take us the win here. GG to our opponent. Next game, we're going to see Medicham once again as our lead into a Shadow Alolan Ninetales. This could be a decent lead if this is not on Charm. Of course, though, it seems like everyone's using Charm today. And in the backline, honestly, not the worst case scenario. We see a Shadow Quagsire as a counter swap into us. Once again, not the best timing by our opponent, giving us a full Hex of energy and damage for free, which is fantastic. When we're already in a bit of a bad spot, we might as well take any advantage that we can get. In comes a Shadow Punch bait. How much damage does this end up doing? It does do quite a bit, but I don't think it'd be quite enough damage to get the 2-shot against them here, so I'm going to go for the Dynamic Punch just to guarantee that we either get a shield or a KO against this Quagsire. They actually let us reach another charge move, though, before we are able to get knocked out, which is fantastic, which means either 2 shields are going to go down for them, or potentially we're going to be in a very good spot where now our Dusknoir has set us up for a bit of an endgame sweep, potentially with our Furret. With that said, that Alolan Ninetales is still going to be a little bit tricky to take down. Aqua Tail comes through. It is going to do a lot of our HP in damage. They're at yet another move, and it's looking like I am not able to Psycho Cut down this Shadow Quagsire. If I could have gone for a full fast move down here, I think we would be in a very good spot, but since I have to throw energy to knock them out, I think it could be just a little bit more awkward. It comes an Aqua Tail. Once again, I'm going to overfarm to 100 energy. I want as much energy as possible because that Alolan Ninetales in the backline is going to be a very tricky Pokemon to deal with our Furt and with our Medicham. So as much energy as we can get, we will take it any day of the week. Dynamic Punch coming through. It's going to do about 70 or 60% of the HP on this Ninetales. I'm at the next Dynamic, but they CMP. Very smart play on this next charge attack here. I'm just hoping right now that our Furt is going to have enough play in the backline that we can potentially win this game. It's a Diggersby. All right, there is a little bit of a chance for us right now. What I have to do is I need to ramp up with the Trailblaze, and I think, honestly, as long as we avoid a Scorching Sands debuff, we should be able to win this game. We'll have a +2 Furt coming out of this matchup, which will hopefully be able to Sucker Punch down that A9, but let's see. It's a 30% chance. Do we lose this game? We get debuffed here, which means that is likely going to be a loss. I absolutely need this Trailblaze to knock out, but thanks to that debuff, I don't think we can knock this out here. But if we didn't get debuffed, I think with the HP that we had, we would be able to go for a full Sucker Punch down against that A9. Unfortunately, though, for us, we end up not knocking out the Diggersby even because of that debuff. GG to our opponent. Sometimes we end up losing games to RNG. Next matchup, Tinkaton in the lead. Very neutral matchup here. We've seen this Pokemon is a little tricky for our team, but there is definitely a lot of wiggle room here where I can go for a chip and dip with Dynamic Punch and try to use Dusknoir as a sweeper in the backline, or potentially just make it disrupt their team a little bit. Our opponent is going to build up so much energy, throw a charge move against us. I've seen a lot of bulldoze into Dusknoir, but I wouldn't be surprised with a Play Rough coming through this time. Yeah, it looks like they do go for Play Rough, and they come in with a non-Shadow Dragonite of all things. That's kind of interesting. I can go for a Shadow Punch here, and I'm hoping they can't Dragon Breath me down before I'm able to get another Shadow Punch off. Let's see what's going to happen. Looks like they are forced into throwing a charge move. This is going to knock us out, but that's a lot of energy down the drain from this Dragonite right now. I'm going to come in with our Furt, try to farm down. Can I get the farm down before a charge move? Just barely, we are able to. And now Furt, with this energy, is going to try to take down the Tinkaton and whatever else might be in the back. I could go instantly for a Trailblaze to ramp up my attack just a little bit earlier, but I know if they do swap out, I want energy for whatever comes in. They, of course, go for a Bulldoze bait. That's just what Tinkatons do best, but I can still go for a Trailblaze here. I'm almost at a Swift as well, which means we can get shields back or knock out this Fairy and Steel-type Pokemon. They attempt a catch here. It doesn't quite work out. Honestly, a bit of a scary catch attempt by them. I could have gone instantly for another Trailblaze, but because we see what comes in, we'll go for a Swift, and we'll try to win this game, but they go for a no-shield, interestingly enough, on their Swampert. I could have one-shot them with a Trailblaze, but I guess at this point they're just investing in their Tinkaton. With that said, I can go for a full Sucker Punch down. Hopefully, no, not barely. They're able to survive on 1 HP with the Swampert, but I can actually go for a catch with this Medicham now, able to survive this Hydro Cannon, and even though they were able to land that move into us, they still have to throw energy against our Medicham to knock us out. They can't Fairy Wind us down, and you can't store a Bulldoze and a Play Rough, which means I think we might still be in a good spot to win this game. We end up getting a shield here. We have 2 Swifts in the back line, so as long as we can win this game and not get knocked out by a Bulldoze here and a Bulldoze on our Furret, we should be able to win this game. Well, they go for a Play Rough. That's just game over for them right now. They needed to go for a Bulldoze because now they can't have back-to-back moves after that Play Rough. I can go for the Swift number 1 and then Swift number 2 to close out this endgame. Very close matchup here, but Furret able to take down one of its worst counters here with the Tinkaton, just barely taking us the win in this match. GG to our opponent. Next game here, we're going to see our Medicham as our lead up against a Greninja. All right, well, we've seen this a little bit earlier today. Medicham, while it is a counter in theory to this Pokemon, it's not the most consistent answer, and our opponent tries to make a catch with their Tinkaton. With that said, I do have my Dusknoir that can at least kind of neutralize this Pokemon a little bit, but it is a bit awkward because they have a lot of energy on that Greninja, and I have no idea what's in the backline. I just have to hope right now that our Dusknoir is able to potentially leverage a lot of energy this game to give us an advantage. Dynamic Punch is going to end up landing into the Tinkaton, which is fantastic to see our opponent able to outpace us. This has to be a Play Rough to knock us out. I'm going to shield, hoping they don't bait. Let's see what they're going to throw. Play Rough comes through, and we are able to properly shield up that attack. We have a lot of energy here on our Dusknoir. I would be a little bit surprised if they shield up the Shadow Punch, knowing that at this point, I do have back-to-back. Our opponent will let that move go, and we'll see what they want to come in with. They do have a lot of energy on that Greninja, but because I have a lot of energy as well on my Dusknoir, I think we're in a decent spot right now. They do instantly throw a charge move, and since I have so much energy on our Medicham, I'm thinking right now, as long as I can get a shield here from Greninja, I should be in a pretty good spot. We go for another Hex. They catch, again, a Dynamic Punch catch on a Claydol. Very good play once again to our opponent here, but because they catch on Claydol, I can come in with our Furret, try to abuse as much energy as I can here, and potentially use this energy on both our Furret and our Medicham to win this game. In comes likely a Rock Tomb, no, actually a Scorching Sands being thrown, able to do a decent chunk of our HP, but now I can go for a Swift. I have nearly 100 energy on our Fur, which means that that Greninja in the back line does not want to take any of our charge moves. I have basically 2 Dynamic Punches on our Medicham. We just want to guarantee a shield, so not going to risk it at all. If I throw a Swift and they call that attack, I have no faster pressure. Luckily, we do get a shield here with the Trailblaze, and now I think our Medicham should be able to go for 2 Dynamic Punches to win this game. Our opponent going for a Night Slash, attempting to get a boost, but fortunately we do see no boost from this Greninja, meaning now this game is going to be ours. Dynamic Punch number 1 being thrown, and if it does get shielded, Dynamic Punch number 2 is going to follow very shortly after. In comes the charge move. Our opponent has no shields remaining. This will knock out the Greninja and take us the win in the game. GG to them. Next game here, you're going to see a terrible lead matchup. Galarian Corsola is by no means what Medicham wants to see, but we can safe swap our Dusknoir and try our very best to spam out Shadow Punches against his bulky Ghost-type Pokemon. Shadow Punch number 1 being thrown. Do we get a shield? Do we see a no shield? A no shield is going to come through, and it does about half of their HP, which is fantastic to see. Maybe now, if they do swap out, Ice Punches and Psycho Cuts could start adding up over time, but I'm just happy at this point that they are staying in. Shadow Punch being thrown. Our opponent might want to shield this move up if they want to survive. They might let it go, though, if they're fine with the shield advantage. It looks like they do end up shielding the attack here, and now they throw energy against our Dusknoir to knock us out. I can farm this all the way down if I want to with our Furret, and since they stayed in this lead matchup, I really wouldn't be surprised if there's a Primeape in the back line. I also wouldn't be surprised maybe like if it's the double fighter team. I've seen double fighters. Okay, it's not double fighter. It's actually just Diggersby in the back line. And I'm still just very much expecting right now it's either a Pangoro in the back or a Primeape. Since I'm expecting that, I'm going to stay in with our Furret into the Diggersby, knowing that at this point this is likely the best matchup remaining, and that Corsola is low enough that if our Medicham has to, I can still deal with it by going for Ice Punches and Psycho Cuts. In comes that Scorching Sands. Of course, once again, we get debuffed here. Not what I want to see as a Furret user. Because of that debuff, now I can't knock out this Diggersby with our next charge move, and instead I'm going to bank all the energy here, come in with our Medicham, and try to knock them out with an Ice Punch before they can knock us out. Ice Punch, if it gets a shield, is fantastic. If it lands, is also just great. That's a lot of energy down the drain. They do come back in with that Corsola. I'm instantly going to throw this Ice Punch. If they shield this move up, that is a huge tell that something in the backline really does not want to see our Medicham. In comes the shield, which is fantastic news. I think we might even be able to go for a full Psycho Cut down if they stay in this matchup. And because we have Dynamic Punch, we have a lot of energy on Furret. I think we are in a very winnable position. In comes their final Pokemon. It is, in fact, the Pangoro. We have back-to-back Dynamic Punch. Does this one-shot the Dark type, fighting type Pokemon? In comes a move. It does. Down goes Pangoro, and we have a Dynamic Punch. Might as well go for it against this Corsola. How often are you able to knock out a Corsola with a fighting type move? Not very, but it looks like in this game, it will just about happen. Dynamic Punch knocks out Corsola and takes us the win here. GG to our opponent. Next game, Medicham into Grumpig, not catching a break with these leads here. Our backline is at least somewhat playable, though, into this Pokemon. Safe swap with our Dusknoir, and we are met by an opposing Dusknoir, which is honestly not that bad to see, although it could be a little bit awkward, saying they are already pretty weak to our Furret. Likely their final Pokemon is going to be strong to us. With that said, we actually win CMP. I'm kind of surprised by that. I'm using a pretty high-ranked Dusknoir here, but I'll take it. At this point, I might get 2 shields. Okay, not 2 shields, but I am able to get 1 shield advantage, as well as a ton of damage into this Dusknoir, which means I think I can go for a full Sucker Punch down before they're able to get a Dynamic Punch into our Furret. In comes Furret here. We're able to get a full farm down before another charge move is reached. That's just how slow Astonish is here. We see that their final Pokemon is a Pangoro once again, but the thing is, while Grumpig is not the best matchup for Medicham, Shadow Ball is a pretty expensive charge move. Psywave is not super effective, so I think there is a chance for us to win this game just by spamming out Ice Punches into this Pokemon. As long as I can get the shield down from this Grumpig, I should be able to either win this game with Medicham by going for a Dynamic Punch into that Pangoro, or if they just let their Grumpig completely go down here, I'm going to be able to just spam out moves once again into that Dark-type Pokemon later on this game. Ice Punch once again being thrown. They do have a Shadow Ball. I'm not going to go for the CMP. That would easily be our lose condition. But now that we've got that Psycho Cut Sneak as well as another shield left to go, I can go for a huge overfarm here. Go for a Dynamic Punch just in case they end up catching that Ice Punch on the Pangoro here, but no catch is going to happen. This is going to knock out this Grumpig. And now all I need to do is 4 more Psycho Cuts to get to back-to-back Dynamic Punches into this Pokemon. In comes the charge move on CMP. I know there's no way we get knocked out by a Night Slash here. Medicham is way too bulky, and now Dynamic Punch, as we've seen very recently, is going to easily knock out this Pangoro. Well, I guess if they end up letting it go. We do have a second one, though, ready to go, which should knock out this Pokemon once again and give us the win against a very suboptimal lead. GG there to our opponent. Next game, going to see Medicham up against a Dugong. Much better lead matchup here. Let's see if they're going to stay in or swap out. Our whole team's actually pretty strong into this thing. And they are staying in here. This is kind of where you wish you had counters Medicham, right? Psycho Cut is going to generate a lot of energy, but our fast move pressure is kind of non-existent here. But since they are staying in, I'm kind of thinking it's a pretty classic team comp to have potentially Dugong plus a fighting type Pokemon, likely a Primeape in this meta. So if that is the case, I feel like I'm going to want to save our Medicham for later on this game if we can. Let's see what they're going to do. In comes the next Dynamic Punch right before their next Icy Wind. This should be able to knock them out or get a shield if they do end up wanting to keep their Dugong alive, but we do see a no shield here, and since they come into the Corsola to try to knock out our Medicham, I'm going to swap out. I think right now it's going to be that Primeape, so I do want to keep my Medicham alive if I can. I'm going to go for a Shadow Punch here into the Corsola. We actually get a shield, which is kind of interesting. I think, though, going for a shield of our own could be a good play, but also just a shield advantage might be a good play for us as well. A little bit of lag going on right now, but we do end up surviving just barely with this charge move, and I'm going to wait out my switch clock fully because if it is that Primeape in the back line, I don't want to give them any extra energy lead if I can help it. In comes our Furret, and our opponent is going to swap. Of course, there it is, Primeape. Who would have thought? I can go for Dynamic Punch now. Our Medicham has a shield advantage as well as a lot of energy. So while these Rage Fists would knock us out here, I should be able to survive all of the fast move pressure, go for 2 Dynamic Punches, and win in this game. In comes the next charge move here into us. Rage Fist is going to get our first shield, and the second Rage Fist is going to get our second shield. But at this point, there is no win condition for them. They can't swap out, they can't catch a move, and because our Furret in the backline is just such a hard answer to that Corsola, they realize at that point not much else they can do. We're able to win that game. So yeah, Medicham, while it is a little bit of a different playstyle than it used to be, does seem to have a little bit of play right now. Ice Punch getting that buff in a couple seasons ago, as well as Dynamic Punch being buffed this season, gives it a much more unique charge move oriented playstyle, and while Psycho Cut is not the best fast move in the game, Medicham's bulk is able to overcome a lot of the bad matchups here, and as you saw in today's video, it might be at least kind of viable. Alright, well thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the battles and you want to see more content like this on the channel, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.